This morning I had to go and witness for myself this monstrosity, the Doomsday clock. My local council have announced through this piece of taxpayer-funded public art that the world will end in 2030 because of climate change. It's called Zone Red and is created by this parasite, Yandell Walton, and it cost us ratepayers $18,000.
I'm Yandell Walton, and I'm an artist working here on Wurundjeri country. So this work took about 18 months to produce from concept to delivery.
The Zone Red clock, created by Yandell Walton, is designed to highlight the urgency of climate change. She wanted to highlight the urgency of climate change, yet this took her 18 months to complete. So it can't be that fucking urgent then.
So I predominantly work with moving image and projection in a very kind of spatial context. I use public art to try and raise awareness about individual impact on the environment.
There's always some leech like this, sucking us dry and then using wanky language to explain to us that their project was somehow a huge effort, which is deserving of praise and financial reward. As each second passes, the installation is a stark reminder of the approaching deadline, creating a powerful juxtaposition between the impending sense of alarm and the hope for change. Yandell has given herself a nice safety net there. So when 2030 comes around and we expose this as hysterics, then she and her fellow cultists can say, yes, it's because we had hope. We had hope and $18,000 art installations, and because of that, we saved the planet from the climate emergency. This artwork embodies a duality. It's a call to action rooted in the alarming realities of climate science, yet it also carries the promise of hope, underscoring the potential for human ingenuity and collective effort to create meaningful change before it's too late, Walton said. The red zone is expected to remain in the gardens until April. This council couldn't be more out of touch, and overnight it appears that someone expressed their discontent by graffitiing all over it. I've no idea if it was a genuine statement against the council or if it was just some graffiti kids, but this is why these public servants are terrified of something like a Department of Government Efficiency. They know it would expose their terrible management of our taxes and rates, and it would shine a light on the fact that most of them do very little work. They have a budget of over $230 million a year, which they mostly waste on vanity projects like this. They cancelled Australia Day and they took down the Australian flag from the town hall on Australia Day. They proudly pump money into LGBT friendly crosswalks, and they plaster all the various sexual identity flags on their buildings. They fund all the gay street parties and, I don't know, probably buy lots of rainbow party hats. They tell the citizens that they should go vegan, but they themselves are still allowed to eat meat. And they do so at fancy dinners that are paid for by the ratepayers. And then, after all of this spending on pointless crap, they had to find a legal loophole to charge us ratepayers more for waste collection, because they'd run out of money for providing basic services. We are paying for them to produce this crap, which just indoctrinates the youth into their cult, totally screwing up the kids' heads. Hey, Mummy, what's a doomsday clock? Ah, son, now that's the expensive piece of art that tells us that we're all going to die in 5 years. Unless, of course, we start paying climate taxes.
I'm terrified because I know I'm going to die from climate change.
I mean, you have to forgive me for being sceptical. I had the fear of acid rain rammed into me in the 80s. In the 90s, it was the ozone layer. I mentioned this to a friend recently who told me, yes, Tom, we were incredibly lucky to have changed our habits and stopped using CFCs just in time to reverse that and save the ozone layer. All right, so we changed the technology that's used in our deodorant sprays, and that saved the planet. I often wonder what lobby groups were behind all of that and if they happened to have investments in non-CFC products. And now we've got this new climate hysteria, which comes with all sorts of ways to pay extra climate-related taxes so you can offset your guilt. the guilt that they have brainwashed you into accepting and embracing. There's plenty of people making $1 or $2 out of sustainable energy. They do say it's easier to fool someone than to convince them that they've been fooled. And in 20 years' time, when there's a new hysteria and someone reminds you of the climate crisis of the 2020s, you'll be able to smugly say, well, we solved that problem through taxes and measuring people's carbon footprints and forcing people to stay within 15-minute cities. We saved the world. This is why Yandell's project is only going to be there until April this year, so that in 2030, if I remind somebody of it, then they can either look at me blankly, having completely memory holed this piece of art, or they can claim that initiatives like Yandell's Doomsday clock actually saved the human race.